Welcome, everyone. Really appreciate you taking time with us today. We're going to probably teach for about 40 minutes, and then we'll hang out for the Q&A as long as you have questions. I'm just going to ask you to stay muted until the end when we do the Q&As. If you have any questions, feel free to just private message me those, or you can put them in the public chat too, and we will get to them at the end. My name is Andy Traub. If we've never met or been on a Zoom, which is the equivalent of meeting, I think now in 2022, if you've Zoomed, you've met. It's great to meet you. And I'm joined by my friend, Sten Morgan, who you're all here to learn from. Good afternoon, Sten.
Good to be here, brother.
Well, let's dive in. We really want to be practical, and we're going to target two groups today. If you're going to be one of these, you've never charged or you have charged. But let's first start with some of the challenges that you experience in the industry if you want to charge for your advice. One of the biggest ones is the industry as a whole has told most advisors that your advice and your ideas are what you give away in order to get to product, to AUM, but you don't charge for that. You have to give it away. No one would pay for that. The next is that most people who want to charge for their advice, they don't know where to start. Do I go get a bunch of ideas? Do I have to go get another certification? Do I need to buy another book? Do I have to become a CPA? Do I have to get my CFA? Do I have to start selling property and casualty? Like where do I get all these ideas from? They don't know where to start. The other is that you don't know how to price your advice. The pricing of the things that you have been selling for however many years you've been in the business are built in. You don't decide how much something costs or how much you make from it. That's built in. So how much can you or should you charge if you give someone an idea that saves them $50,000? It's a valid question. And the other is you were told that success takes a long time. It takes a decade. So you can't, you're too young maybe to be giving advice and getting paid for it. You haven't been in long enough. You have to kind of do your time, right? And so we think those are challenges. I want to have Sten talk about the truth. And we know those are true, not just for Sten, but for many, many advisors who are starting to realize that they can charge for their advice. So the first is your advice is worth paying for. How did you realize this was true for you, Sten?
I don't know, everybody that's listening, that's on the call, if there's a time in your life so far where you've had a moment to where a light bulb came on or something took hold of you that essentially changed the way you thought about something before. Your body, there was almost like a visceral reaction to like, I have to reject that, because if it's true, it means the way I've been doing it has not been the right way, or the best way, or the most productive, most profitable, most impactful way. When I first heard an advisor say every client that walks in their door pays them a planning fee to even work with them.
Right.
Given my background with Northwestern Mutual, Raymond James, heavy insurance to heavy AUM, the idea that the product was not the thing, the idea that I could be the thing apart from the product, somebody would pay me just to be in the room to give them guidance, ideas, my time, I rejected it. I'm thankful that I was able to push in just a little bit, and really it was a toe in the water. I did not cannonball into this and be like, I'm all for it. But it took hold, and I realized AUM is important. I love it. That's my background. We're good at it. Insurance, so important. But the relationships I was establishing and the first interactions I was having when I led with product, because that was the only thing I had to get paid on. I could not just meet with a bunch of people for free and just say, hey, you don't need what I have. Good luck. I would have been out of business. Family wouldn't have, been eating. As soon as I realized there's value here, and if I position it correctly, people will pay for it, but they're happy to pay for it. Like, I'm not even having to convince them. So I realized people are out there paying for it. There's advisors doing it really well. I didn't want to wait 10 years to do it. I also didn't want to have to limp into it. So as soon as we got some wins with it, we said, this is true. People want this. There's not enough advisors doing it. And we went full bore for it.
What about this idea that your best ideas aren't necessarily or don't necessarily have to be your ideas? I think it takes some humility to understand this, but also just break down, because people are paying for your ideas. So where do you get them? Where do you get your best ones?
Yeah, this was another, head trash, big obstacle for me when I started. I was like, hey, I'm 28, starting to charge for ideas, 29, and I'm still relatively young. I don't have a master's in tax. I'm not an attorney. Like, What will people pay me for? And my early plans were smaller. You know, there's a fee you can charge just to give people guidance and help them execute pretty basic planning, and that's valuable. But as soon as I started realizing there are creative ideas out there that most people don't know about, that I can learn how to monetize and use those to justify a much higher planning fee, I got excited because I realized those ideas exist. And so if I can get them for my COIs, if I can subscribe to CPA newsletters, if I can get on webinars periodically and learn, our posture now is we are curators of great ideas. In Nashville now, if you're a business owner and you probably don't have the answer to your problem, there's a good chance somebody's going to tell you to call us first. Because the other people they think of are insurance-based or AUM-based, but they're like, I don't know the answer to your problem. It doesn't sound like you need a product or to be sold. You just need somebody to talk to about it. That escalated our game even more.
Can I tell the Stacy story real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I have a friend, a family friend, my wife and I are friends with this other couple, and we were hanging out with them. This is probably 4 months ago now. And I said, you know, Stacy, how's business? And she's like, it's so good, it's overwhelming. I said, well, I guess that's a good problem. She said, yeah, I have a friend who told me I need to go see this guy. And like word for word, she said, I don't remember his name, but my friend just said I have to talk to him. He just has really good ideas for business owners. And I just got this big smile and I go, is his name Sten? She goes, yeah, that's weird. I go, yeah, I know Sten. I work with Sten. And that's a funny story, but we want that to be true for you. Because no offense, but people don't brag about, hey, I got this great life insurance policy yesterday from my guy. Like, this is not what people talk about, but ideas travel. And we want to help you be a person who is a person who cultivates and creates great ideas. Stan, I think it's important that people also remember this isn't like a means to an end where it's like, yeah, we're going to get through the planning so we can get to the product. That in order for this to work, it's worth it even if no one buys a product. I think that's kind of hard for people to process, to be frank.
Especially because the industry, and so all you know, this is coming. Like Raymond James has called us, Mass Mutual has called us, Thrive, like the biggest firms you know of have called us to say, hey, we need to try to figure out how to do this. Their phase one of this is, hey, let's let them charge $500 or $1,000 for a plan. Like it's a loss leader. You still need to sell the product though for that to be a good relationship. That's fine. It's movement in the right direction. The ultimate goal is that you could have an engagement with a client that if they never buy anything, it was still a great engagement. Like that you were still happy to be their advisor because they paid you enough and you gave them the right amount of service. So it was a win-win for both of you. You will still get AUM if you want it. You will still sell insurance policies if you want to, probably more than you ever have before. We get more AUM. We do bigger insurance deals than we ever have. But our initial engagement is planning and consulting. And if it moves there naturally or it's needed, great, I'm excited about it. We tell them, hey, that's a separate engagement we can talk about, but you are a client and we're going to be happy to work with you just based on planning alone.
The last part of the truth of starting to charge for your advice is you have to start with version 1. I think one of the challenges, and we'll talk about this today, Sten, is that people will see someone like Sten or others they know and go, oh, we did 600K in planning alone. And people go, oh my gosh, I could never be there. Or how long will it take me to get there? So Sten, I want you to help people understand why focusing on version 1 is so important.
You will learn that most of the obstacles between where you are now and where you could be in your practice is all in your head. We are proof that it's possible. We are proof that clients want it. We are proof that we are scratching the surface and there's more clients than we can even serve in this. So the question's not, can you as an advisor pivot and add this to your business? It may not become the biggest vertical you have, but what if it's just another way for you to engage prospects that aren't ready to buy something right away, but now they're in your system. And then you get to convert them at a different rate, but you're still getting paid for your time. Like that could be it. That could be what this purpose is for you. Or you may say, I want to get to $500,000 of consulting and planning fees. I want to get to 600 plus like we are. That's up to you because the business model varies on all of them. But your version 1 should be, I believe that people are better off if I'm in the room than if they are on their own. And there's a value to that. I may only charge $2,500 up front, and I'm going to make sure I'm not, over at their house mowing their grass and taking their dog on a walk for that fee. Like, don't give away too much for it. But I promise everybody on this call is worth at least $4,000 in a year for 2 meetings and a check-in phone call. I bet everybody on here should be able to charge $7,500 for 4 meetings a year. Like, your version 1 just needs to be you trying something and owning that you're valuable. And then where you take it from there is up to you.
So Stan, I want to talk about your progression some, and this is really in this relation to the fees. And then we're going to talk about your average fee, and then what size, or what does your team look like as you progressed through this? Because obviously you had to start to add some team members. So let's go with your progression. This is from a fee perspective. Back in 2018, under 100K, then 200, 350, 450, and now 600 in 2022. And that's sort of in a rolling 12, pretty close to the calendar year. But I want to ask some specific questions about this because it's kind of easy to throw up these numbers. But what's your average planning fee now versus sort of those other years?
Yeah, it's gradually increased. One, just with the complexity, and again, it's confidence. I am now able to sit in a room with a business owner and say, oh yeah, it's going to be $2,500 a month. 3 years ago, I probably would have been like, $2,500 a month? Like, is that a question, Sten? Or are you telling me what it is? Like, but now I've just seen the repetition, and these are all the case studies we've built to where our EAN members can see, oh, here's the 20 clients Sten's worked with. Here's the fees charged them, and here's what he's delivered. And they're more than happy to renew. So a lot of times it's just repetition in there, but ours have gradually gone up to where we're on 10,000 per client is our average.
So we know that complexity is opportunity when you're an advisor. When there's more complex a situation, the more opportunities you have to really add value, to find ways to help people. Business owners have more complexity. Talk to me about what percentage of your clients now are business owners versus maybe in years 1 and 3 versus year 5 and 6. So what percentage are business owners? And then why is it easier for business owners to pay those fees on a really practical level?
Yeah. Year 1, it was all, married households, 2 professionals making 250, 300 plus. They needed a financial plan for the first time, some guidance on an estate plan. Those were, anywhere from $1,500 maybe to $4,000 a plan. As we got into the business owner space and realized they want to meet more, they have more complex issues, they probably want us to talk to their CPA a couple times in a year. We were able to start increasing that fee again due to complexity and need. Business owners are so busy, they're like, I don't want to deal with it, you just do it. Okay, we'll do it, but it's going to cost more if we're that involved. So our fees were able to tick up. The business owner space is also nice because if it is consulting related to a business need, they can deduct that fee. And we defer that to the CPA, but if a business owner says, hey, Stan, will you come in and evaluate my 401k plan? Is it good? What do you think about our buy-sell agreement? Would you sit down with a few partners and we can kind of help structure this and bring an attorney in? Their CPA would be like, great, that's a consulting expense. And it is amazing how easily people write checks from their business account versus their personal account. So for us, that business owner market has really developed, and that's probably 80% of our clients now in the consulting space.
Right. But in the beginning, I mean, like you said, it was, you don't get a name in that space until you have built a name in that space. And it takes a while, right?
Yeah. And in Nashville, Vanderbilt's here, and there was a bunch of doctors making 250, 300. All their money was trapped in a 401k. Already have group DI, the stuff that I would have gone after before. I was like, none of these people are clients to me now. Oh, wait, I can go sell $2,500 financial plans to a bunch of these doctors that need help. Yeah. So there's a market that exists for, it doesn't have to be like, the crystal ball magic idea for a business owner. It's like just good guidance and basic strategies that I bet everybody on this call is already doing to some extent for free. You just need to start assigning a value to it, putting a process around it, and presenting it differently.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and go to this next part here, which is the importance of having a team. At some point, this doesn't scale, right? You've got to add team members. What did your team look like year 1, 3, and now?
So early on, it was me, one other advisor, a paraplanner, and a relationship manager. So 2 advisors were trying to gain business, and paraplanner was kind of helping us put the data together and present it, and relationship manager was kind of cranking it out. You can take this to a certain point at that level. You could probably do 150,000 of consulting fees with a team of 3 to 4. We then had to decide, do we really want to scale this thing? We started recognizing that most of our biggest AUM and insurance opportunities were coming through these consulting clients. And they were real estate developers, business owners, people that weren't your typical, hey, I'll just buy a mutual fund with my money and talk to you once a year. Like, they wanted a little bit more. So we decided, hey, let's really turn this thing up. And so we hired a new relationship manager. The previous one became my practice manager to help me oversee the practice so I could focus on my superpowers more. The next hire was a director of planning. Like, hey, this is a meaningful part of our business, $500,000 to 600,000 and growing. We need somebody managing and overseeing this so it actually grows. And so now with that team of 5 to 6, I mean, we could do $1 million of planning fees in a year. We could be a $4 to $5 million practice. Like, we're very dangerous in that space, and you don't need to keep growing past that. So you could be pretty healthy with a team of 5 or 6 and run a really thriving planning practice, but it can't be 1, probably can't be 2. You can dabble a little bit, but if you're like, I really want to pour into this, like, I am now an advice-based advisor. I happen to have products, but I'm going to lead with ideas and value. A team of at least 3, probably 4 should be the goal.
Awesome. And by the way, folks, if you have any questions for Sten, we are going to get to those at the end. Just feel free to put them in the chat so you don't forget them and we don't forget them. You just put them in the chat, either to me privately or to everyone publicly is fine too. And we do have a member of our community who has been putting this stuff into place, who will speak after this first section. So stick around for him. This first group we want to speak to is how to add 50K if you've never charged for your ideas. So where do you start? Like, what's the first thing to do? So we're going to get really, really practical. And actually, we're going to do Matt after that. But the idea here is ideas first prospecting. This is not a normal term. This is unique. So ideas first prospecting is this: is that first you go gather ideas from outside sources, outside experts. And then your goal when you meet with a person is to plant possibility instead of pushing product. And we understand why people go towards only products, because that's how they, pay their mortgage. That's how they put braces on their kids' teeth. That's how they pay the rent at the office, right? But when you become a gatherer of ideas, then what changes when you do ideas first? What changes in that relationship, and how do you differentiate yourself from other advisors when you do this ideas first prospecting?
Well, a breakthrough I had was when I truly started realizing, as I worked with more and more clients, which prospects and clients were more like me. And I realized I'd be a hard client to have. Like, I'd ask questions, I'd kind of sniff stuff out. If every time I met with my advisor, it always ended up with like, hey, I have the solution to your problems, and they sign here. That would have frustrated me. And so what I ventured to develop was, what's the experience I would want to have? If I walked into an office and the first meeting was a strategy meeting, every meeting's a strategy meeting at Legacy, whether it's your first meeting or your 10th meeting, we're always talking ideas. We're always talking strategy. I would want them to open my mind to possibilities. And so when we have ideas that we've banked in our firm and we're constantly researching, if somebody meets us the first time and I don't talk about product, I just share, hey, tell me about your business. Oh, that's interesting. Have you ever thought about this? If I can get them in the first meeting to think to themselves, I've never heard of that before, or wow, that's really interesting, I got them. Because they're going to leave there thinking like, I've never had a financial planning meeting like that before. There was no product. It was just ideas. And that advisor probably just saved me 50 grand in the first meeting with ideas alone. Switch roles with the client. How would that experience feel like for you? You'd probably say, this is great. When can we meet again? That is not the experience most clients are having with their advisors. It's, oh, I got to go. Hey, this is good. I know I need to be doing something. But we've seen firsthand how many clients run away from their advisors, even for 10, 20 years, because they're like, this is what I've been looking for. Like, that's the meeting I've been wanting to have for the last 20 years.
And I've heard a client actually say this. There's a couple clients that are really good with quotes, and I don't sit in on the client meeting. I see them talk in the lobby as we share an office with Sten's practice. But they'll say things like, Sten, you're the only person I like talking about money with, which I think is kind of a cool because most people don't like talking about, it's awkward. It's too personal. They feel embarrassed, right? Or it's confusing, right? And the other one was recently someone had said to you, I think, Stan, like, this is the first meeting we've had about money that we didn't have to go Google afterwards. Like, what did that mean? Meaning they felt like, oh, I understand. I feel smarter, not dumber after this meeting, which is really what we all hope, right? I mean, you hope that your clients feel educated and empowered, but that just rarely happens.
Yeah. And that's why the prospecting method we teach is you're on a whiteboard in an office. Like if you're sitting for your meetings, change that. Like get a whiteboard in your meeting room and stand for at least 30% of the time. It changes the energy in the room. You're immediately the authority. You're the coach right away. They're going to receive everything you say differently. And you need to learn to illustrate ideas. Hey, client, have you funded a SEP before? I see you have good business income now. You've paid down some of your debts. Do you know if you fund this SEP with $40,000, and I'm writing this out, your tax rate effectively is around 25%. That'll save you $10,000 in taxes this year. Times 10. You know, if you do that over 10 years, that's a $40,000, that's a $100,000 idea. And I write that down and then I take note of it and I take note of it. By the time I present that proposal to that client, hey, you know, the few ideas I shared with you that over the next 10 years, that was about 200,000 of savings. It's going to be $10,000 to work with us this year. Who doesn't say yes to that? The issue with the industry and most advisors, and this was my training, is like, hey, how's your planning? Hey, here's some things you can do. I hope you like me. Let's do something together. We are competing with their life. We're competing with the fact that they're driving their kids to soccer practice right when they leave the office and they just forgot about you. You did not create enough urgency for them to take action. But if I put in front of you, you know, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential savings, because I don't know everything about you yet, but I've painted a picture, a vision, the chances of you coming back and working with us are much higher than the average advisor experience.
So what this does is, and you know, we've worked through the ways to sort of say this in a way that I think captures what really happens, is you start to fish with a bigger net. I mean, imagine there's a certain number of fish in the water and you have a small net. You have to throw that net out more and more and more and more. But if you have a larger net, you throw out your net much less, and you're going to get bigger catch. So how do you increase your closing percentage? Well, this is why and how. So first, about 10%, and these are numbers not just from Sten, but from other advisors we work with, asking them about people they used to work with and now do get to work with, is about 1 out of 10 people they would meet with had an immediate need or desire. Yes, I want to move a lot of money right now. Yes, I'm in a situation where I've got to roll over this or move this, or I have an immediate insurance need, right? That's 1 in 10 people. There's also that group that they're not ready to do anything. They don't want to do anything. Even if you present to them with, you know, the best proof of you should do this, they're just not going to do anything. Those people will always exist. But I wasn't a math major, but that leaves about 60% of the people. And Sten's experience and the experience of many advisors we work with is that group of people is willing to pay for ideas if they understand and see the value, right? That's the shift. So what happens is you go from 10% to 70% possibility when you're working with people. That's a substantial difference. And it removes, because some people will just say, well, you know, call more people. Well, that's fishing with the same net, right? We want to teach you to fish with a larger net. Sten, do you want to speak to that? When you started to make that shift from product to ideas, were you surprised about how many people were willing to say yes to ideas?
Yeah, just based on the fact I wasn't from Nashville, I wasn't getting in front of the higher net worth people that probably already had assets with an advisor. They weren't taking my meeting. I was getting meetings with people that maybe hadn't had an advisor before, or, you know, their advisor hadn't called them back in a while, so they're usually probably not large clients. But within that 60%, there's people that will pay you $1,500 for a plan. There's people that will pay you 80 grand for a plan, but they are willing to engage with an advisor on something other than product. That 10%, there's about 300,000 of us going after them. And I was in my late 20s in Nashville. Like, that was not the game I wanted to play. So I had to adapt to say, but the real estate developer that's worth $40 million that doesn't want to own mutual funds that make 8% because he makes 30% on his property.
Yeah.
I bet that person will have a conversation with me if I have good ideas. Because I'm not competing with their broker that's saying, hey, don't worry about it. Don't take money away from me, so don't do anything else. Like, there's a lot of people that want ideas that don't have to do with put it in the market, or hey, buy more insurance. Again, those tools are important. We do a lot of that. but do you want to start your engagement? Do you want the first impression of your client to be, yeah, I bought some products from him and now we talk periodically and I get to know him over time? Or, wow, you just added like you immediately added value. Like I haven't even paid you yet and you've given me some value and ideas. That's the advisor I wanted to be.
Well, I want to add, I want to bring in Matt here. Matt, can you unmute for me?
Yes, hi guys.
Hey, how are you, my friend?
Fantastic.
Good, thanks for taking just a minute before the Thanksgiving break to hang out with us.
Oh no, happy to do so.
So tell us where you're calling in from, and tell us how long you've been in the business.
Yeah, so I'm calling in just north of Philadelphia, area called Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and been in the business it'll be 10 years full time, Easter of 2023.
Awesome. Tell us how long you've been charging for advice.
Been charging now for 2 to 3 years, charging now for advice. I came from the broker-dealer world, similar to Sten, and all based on product sales. That's obviously how a lot of people get into this business, and I was no different. And started charging about 3 years ago. I started attending a few different conferences and getting involved with groups like this, and just learning about there's different ways to do this business.
Yeah,
And which made sense to me because I was an engineer for 15 years, a professional engineer. And whenever someone wanted to get a piece of land developed, we give them a proposal, charge them a fee. That made sense to me. And it works no different here in this world too. It works actually much better. So.
yeah, we give that analogy of, if you're going to build a home, a lot of people want to hire an architect to create plans, and you pay for that plan, right? That you don't say to the architect, now build the house for free. No, you're paying for some plans to be made, and those plans are specific to them. Let me ask you, since you started working with Elite Advisor Network, since you've gone through our How to Charge for Your Advice program, what are some specific things that you changed to improve your planning business?
Yeah, well, quite a few, but I'll name probably the top one. And the reason I joined the group in the first place was, we have a lot of complex ideas, a lot of stuff that's kind of complicated sometimes. And I just wanted to, I'm an engineer, so I'm a technical person, right? I get kind of in the weeds. I needed better ways to explain what we do, better ways to explain ideas, like Sten talked about. How do you explain an idea through your pen? And so someone who's not an engineer, not technical, can understand the concept relatively quickly, and that just builds trust quicker, which will then keep building on top of each other, right? So the ideas and how to explain ideas is one thing that really I've taken to, and just specific business practices. We have a newer RIA. We're in business for 2 years now, and just better ways to learn how other people are doing it, and sending their group. They're not shy about giving away, hey, this is what we're doing. Take it for how you take it for what you want to do with it. So that's been very helpful too.
Awesome. Do you mind sharing how much planning revenue you plan to do in 2022, having the year almost ending up, and what do you project for next year with your?
Yeah, so I'll personally be about 60 to 70,000 this year, and I've already brought on a couple of clients that are starting very soon. So I'm hoping to be around, personally, around 120 to 130 next year.
Wow.
Then there's our firm will do more too. I have a couple of partners who also do planning work. So I'm not sure what they're at exactly, but that's where I'll be.
Awesome. Well, if you would stick around
Matt,
for a little longer. Go ahead.
Matt, at this point, is there any question left in your mind that this is an effective way to run your business?
Oh, absolutely not. I've had more fun these past couple of years than I've had in the last 10 easily. It's just, it's more fun to work with clients. You tend to get better clients, folks who really appreciate what we do. and clients that'll stick around for the long term. And working with, if you want to work with business owners, I found that they expect to be charged. They get very suspicious of folks who come in who say, "Hey, we're going to do this for free." So charging for your advice with business owners is absolutely key because they expect to pay it. Okay, what's your price, Matt? Okay, let's go. So, yeah,
That's great.
So-
That's a great point.
yeah,
Thanks, Matt.
sure, guys.
So let's talk about this other group. If you've already started charging for your ideas, we want to help you today as well. The first is to have a targeting strategy or strategies. What this again, not a normal term. So Sten, if you could talk about this as an example, and Matt, if you have one too, feel free to chime in. But this is a strategy used to target a specific group of professionals just because of what they do for a living, or those holding a specific asset. So again, this is different than just collect a bunch of good ideas and hope you stumble across someone that could use your ideas. This is to take an idea and then go use it to go find people, knock on the door and say, I have a strategy for you. So Sten, what does that look like for you and for your company? How do you use targeting strategies?
So,
where do you find them?
Yeah. So in the Elite Advisor Network, we're always comparing there's an average path and there's an elite path. And so the average path for me when I started was, hey, anybody that's willing to talk to me, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm maybe going to find a problem. I'll try to solve it. Hey, do you know anybody else that has money? Can I talk to them too? Very unintentional, hard to refer. And again, I lived in that. I was trained to do that. And the industry would tell you, do enough of that, hard enough, long enough, and eventually you'll be okay. Like you'll survive, but it'll take you 5 years. If you make it past 5 years, welcome to the club. Now I look back and I'm like, man, if I only would have been able to realize at the time that if I found a specific idea, and one of those being like R&D tax credits was one we did for a while. So I met with a CPA, talking shop, said, hey, what are some of the best ideas you help clients with? And they said, oh, R&D tax credits are great. All right, so I learned in about an hour enough to be dangerous and learn what kind of companies most likely would qualify for an R&D tax credit. And if you've spent money on or improved upon building or improving a technology or a product, you most likely qualify for this. And you can count salaries in addition to product, in addition to consultants. Like this number can get pretty big pretty fast. And in a matter of like 6 months, with this one idea, I was able to meet and identify one company. They got a $250,000 tax credit. Another got a $400,000 tax credit. And you start a relationship with an idea that big. I mean, they're your client for life.
That's a good first date.
Oh, that's a spike the ball, mic drop, and,
Right.
And a lot of other clients are like, hey, we saved you 20,000 in incremental, but some of these big ones, cost segregation is another one we've used. If you own a commercial piece of real estate, there's a good chance it's more beneficial as opposed to you depreciating that building over 39 years. If you can go in and have a firm do a cost seg study and they accelerate depreciation on the flooring, the roofing, the heating and air unit. We just did one with a guy that had 2 buildings, and each building he'll get about $200,000 to write off his taxes. That's cash return to them that's in their pocket to now reinvest in something else. That idea turns heads. We'll get to the estate planning and the insurance and the AUM stuff, but like there are people that in order to get their attention, you need to come to them with a big problem. And it's up to you to say, hey, here's a solution to this big problem you don't even know you have. You are overpaying on taxes. You have not structured your business appropriately. So R&D tax credits, cost seg, those are 2 we've used at times to really target specific clients. QBI was one. Depending on the state, how you're incorporated, any kind of guaranteed payment to a business owner did not qualify for the 20% tax write-off. So we went to business owners and said, hey, how are you paying yourself? And we had some business owners go to their CPA and turn their salary into a draw. And now they just got to take 20% off the top of their income. And you got to believe they told their friends about that.
Mm-hmm.
So we coach advisors to say, hey, use your network, do traditional prospecting through relationship, but also have 1 to 2 ideas at all times that you know where those fish are swimming. You're not randomly throwing your net out hoping you catch one. You're saying, hey, I know this is a fishing hole. This is where business owners hang out. And I know this idea probably applies to most of them. I'm gonna be a little more focused, sniper rifle instead of a shotgun kind of thing.
Absolutely. The next one we're going to talk about, and then we've got about 5 minutes after that, and then we'll do Q&A, is to diversify your client engagement models, which I love the analogy here too of, when you go to a concert, the people in the back of the concert have a great experience. People at the front of the concert have a great experience. They don't have the same experience, but they have a great experience. And so I know the heart of you who are listening, and most people get in this business, you want to serve people well. But one of the problems is that advisors try to treat every client like they're the same. And then a lot of people who fall into planning, they do the same thing where they have one price for planning, right? So Sten, help those who are charging for advice land some more deals by explaining what does it mean to diversify your client engagement models.
So where financial planning can get frustrating is when your fee does not match your service model. So if I charge, Mark, if I was like, hey, Mark, $1,500 to work together, and all of a sudden I'm meeting with him every month, I'm not going to like Mark. Eventually, I'm going to be like, I hope he never calls me back. But if I say, hey, Mark, you want to meet once a month, in order to do that, that's going to be $1,500 a month for that time, and he agrees to it, that's a win-win. So your service model needs to match your fee. Early on, we would meet a client, and I'd say, hey, Mark, it's $1,500 to work with us. Yes or no? I didn't give him any options. He just has to agree to what I said or not. We've evolved that into saying, hey, there's 2 engagements at least. There's the version where we give you the ideas and you implement it and you get with your CPA. We're less involved. It's less time consuming for us. Or there's a version 2, which is us being more involved. We're actually meeting your CPA, implementing it, and there's 2 price points there. What that means is I'm not going to sell you a plan and then not be available to you. It just means I'm setting better expectations, saying if you want us to be more available, there's a different fee for that. But it's not, hey, if you can't afford us, I'm not going to work with you. There is a lower tier engagement. We're just clear about how much time we spend on it. And we've even had some where we've given them 3 options based on different complexities they have. So if you're already charging for plans or about to, be open to giving a client a couple options so it's not an all or nothing.
One problem I've seen that some people who are, they frankly, there's no better way to say it. They over deliver towards the negative. Like they're like, no, I need to meet with every client 4 times. There's clients who would pay you to not meet with them. Like, no, I'm busy, like, please, I don't want to meet with you that much. And so understand that meeting with someone more is not always the best solution for you or them. Right. And so again, I'll go back to that concert analogy. It's like, you can have a great experience in the front row or the back row. But the ticket prices aren't the same, but you can still have a great experience. Right. And there's something about advisors that we work with. Sometimes we have to kind of talk them out of it. Like, not everybody wants to be in the front row. Everybody wants to be in the back row. Right. But sell more than one kind of ticket and you can end up with a lot of happy people. Right. So I want to ask you a question, whether you're watching this on replay or you're here live, which is, how is 2023 going to be different for your business? Because unless you do something different, it's likely not going to be very different. And we really trust and believe that we've offered you some really practical things to do today to add 50K to your planning business, whether you've never charged or you have charged. But I'm 100% confident, and so Sten, that if you'll join us in Nashville in January at our event, that will be a great way for you to make your 2023 different. So if you just bear with me for a minute, I'm going to pull up this page and walk through it. Nicole's going to put a link in the chat, my assistant, to show you this page. And I want to talk to you about our How to Charge live event. We have had over 130 advisors go through this program, and it's been tremendously successful. One of the problems we have is some of them went, hey, I went through the program. Can I come hang out at your office for a day? Well, that's fine if it's like 1 or 2, but not if there's like 100. So we decided to create this event. And again, she put a link in the chat. And I want to point out a couple things. First, the dates are January 17th and 18th here at our offices. That's the actual room that you'll be in. Fits about 30 folks. This page has a great video where Sten explains the event. Answers a lot of your frequently asked questions. Again, here's some more beautiful views of our room. I love that room. And also goes through, what are we specifically going to teach you? What are you going to learn? And it's our process. It's our How to Charge for Your Advice framework. and we go into details there. Couple more things. Does this work? You know, your spouse says, why would you spend money on that? And you can pull up this page and say, because this. We are not going to teach you how to make $2,000 next year. Our deliverable is at the top, how to build a 6-figure planning business. And as you heard from Matt, who has been doing this for 2-3 years, he is well on his way to doing that. And we want to help you do the same thing. So those are the results of our program thus far, whether you have or have not charged for advice. The next is this link to the hotels. I'll pull it up in a minute, but there's hotels very close by. Included in the event are free headshots. This is from some of our past event attendees. So if you want to use those for your marketing materials, that's included in the event. And then here's where you would actually join us at the event down here. But before December 1st, if you use the code free hotel, so you go to add cart and go, there's a discount code called free hotel. And what we want to do is we want to make it easier when you have that conversation and someone says, how much are you paying for that event? And you say, well, they paid for my hotel. So the free hotel code will give you $400 off because we've done our homework. These hotels, one of these, which is like 200 yards from where Sten is standing right now at our offices, they're about $200 a night. So basically we're going to cover the cost of your hotel if you say yes to the event before December 1st at 5 p.m. And the last thing I'll mention is if you have a question, you can click on ask a question and you can actually schedule a time with me, a 20-minute time block. We'll do those after the holiday, obviously. And Nicole, you can drop a link in the chat there as well. So if you did have a question, I spoke with some advisors today, actually 4 or 5 after our morning call, who are going to be coming to the event, which is exciting. Sten, I want to ask you to maybe just remind folks before we go into the Q&A, it was an event like this that led to you having now, and Sten won't say this because he's modest, $1.7 million you've collected in planning fees, not in AUM, not in insurance policy, funds, but just in planning fees alone. Remind folks again, just real quick, that story and how much you invested then. I think you might be muted, sorry.
That was I think a $900 conference, all food, all in, probably $1,000. And this event will be similar to that conference I went to 5-6 years ago, where like you will leave not being able to do it the way you've done it. You will change the way you speak about value, the way you speak about advice. Even if you don't charge for it right away, we've had advisors that just started speaking and presenting themselves this way, and they've closed more AUM, more insurance clients. But the ultimate goal would be, how do you start monetizing this so that it becomes a meaningful part of your business, so you can hire more people, so that you can impact more clients? Like, you need margin in your business, and AUM can be slow to build. Insurance may not be as consistent as you want. Consulting now for our business is the most consistent revenue stream. Most of our clients renew. We add people very frequently. This event will, we'll give you all of our secret sauce that has kind of turned into a large consulting business, which turned into large AUM clients, and we'll never look back.
Wonderful. And Matt, I might throw some of these at you as well, or you can jump in. I'm going to start with you, Sten, on our Q&A. And again, folks, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat. We've got about 5 or 6 questions I want to get through, but keep throwing them in there and we'll keep answering them. Do you charge less after the first year if you've done a lot of the heavy lifting in the first year? And if so, do you charge less? Do you drop it? And how do you approach that conversation?
So we're open. We've realized the life cycle of clients. Like, there could come a time where a client doesn't need to renew, and you say, okay, well, let's talk in a year. Like, that doesn't mean you're losing. In average financial advisor world where I came from, if somebody moves their assets or doesn't buy insurance, it means they don't like you, or you've done something wrong, or they think something else is better. In consulting planning world, there are times where you may pause it for 3 months or 6 months. For business owners, there's always something to do. So we try not to overly discount ourselves. If somebody doesn't see the value, or there's competing interests and we cannot create the urgency based off of immediate ideas, then we may pause, and the relationship pauses on a good note, and then we pick it up later when they need more time. But we try to base our fee off complexity and time. So if we have a 12-month engagement, by the time we get to the renewal, we essentially readdress what needs to be done. And if we don't have a lot to do, or it's not going to take as much time, then we'll present a lower fee.
Matt, do you have anything you want to add to that one?
Yeah, we're similar. Business owners, they tend to stick on. There's always something to do, so they're continual. They can go on forever, it seems, which is great. You got retirees who are got them all set up with their income and their pensions are all figured out and their estate planning is somewhat done. What we do is just to keep the technology up and running, we use eMoney. And if they want the technology of the eMoney site, we charge monthly. So we do a monthly subscription model. So we'll drop down that subscription on like $50 a month just for technology. And that gives them, hey, by the way, we're a phone call away. We'll probably give them one meeting a year to sit down and review what's going on. But that's just a nice way to keep them involved with us, keep the technology up and running. And so it's we do that's our minimum for just someone we'd already done a plan for, and it's all kind of set.
Right.
We go $50 a month, and I tell them, listen, if things were to change, like if you have a big life event, then we'd have to revisit this.
Yeah.
But for right now, and everyone so far has been like, yeah, that sounds good. So
Yeah. And again, we are, Sten and I like to teach principles, not necessarily style, like how you do it. So some people charge, once a year, quarterly, monthly, right? There's different ways to do these. Some people have one fee, we teach to have multiple, but there's different ways you can do this that fit for you. But the principle is your ideas have value and people should pay for those ideas. Market said ideas create value that seeds billion revenue. Yet having the concrete numbers and value behind the ideas, idea benefit are more difficult until repetition. How does one still in the initial stages of transitioning to like proposing and building for your best ideas? How do you transition? Is it with existing clients? Is it new clients? How do you switch?
Yeah, for me, I just had a couple present themselves that I couldn't do AUM or insurance with, but they had the revenue to pay for a plan. The next phase was I mined my book of business and realized there were business owners and people in there that I already built trust with, and they were less difficult to convert into some other engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, though, I think your confidence and capability is going to dictate the fee you charge. So it's okay to charge $2,500 to review somebody's estate plan. I mean, you're not bringing PhD level stuff yet, but that's okay, because you may never have those ideas, but you haven't built out your COI network yet to have these people on your bench that are bringing you those ideas. So I would be patient with yourself. Start with version 1, which may not be where you want it to be in the future, but you're doing it. In just starting it is you believing you have value. And if you can overcome that obstacle, that you being in the room, they are better off than not, then it's much easier to scale your fee in the future. And we help advisors with that all the time by sharing ideas and teaching them how to position it better. A lot of times the biggest obstacle, and this is a great question, Mark, is you just believing if they have you on the team, they're worth it. And you're not solving all their problems in the first 2 meetings. You're asking them to join you in an experience. And now you've just given yourself, 6 months, 12 months to identify and solve their problems. And the point in my career where I gave myself permission to tell somebody in a meeting, hey, that's a great question. Let me take time and research that and come back to you. They love that response because you shouldn't have the answer to every question right away. Like, you're not that smart. I'm not that smart. It's okay to say, hey, that's great. We should really research that. And let's figure out an answer to that together. And you've just bought yourself time to research and come back with ideas.
Pretty specific question here, Sten. How do you handle investment allocation questions for your planning clients? Do you use the same models if someone's just AUM only?
Yeah, I mean, our models are our models because we believe in it. If we believe that energy is a good play, we'll tell a prospect that's a planning client, hey, here's how we're managing money in-house for clients. They may decide to implement that in their 401k on their own, but if part of our engagement with that client is an investment overview and recommendations, whether it's allocation, we're going to evaluate your risk tolerance to make sure it's in line with what you're doing. Like, that's all the stuff I used to do at Raymond James. That is informed by what we are doing in-house from an asset management standpoint. But I don't necessarily say, hey, here's our model on a sheet, go do it yourself. Eventually they will transfer their assets. Like, even if people are like, oh, I enjoy doing this, and they start realizing by working with you that, man, this is hard. I'm not looking at it. I'm not doing very well. by taking the seat on their bus that you were their strategy team, someday when they're ready to say, hey, I thought I liked this, but I didn't, you'll be well positioned to take that over if you want to.
I love this question from Sandra. She kind of rephrased to a different one, but are there times you felt you undercharged because of the planning client is too needy or demanding or doesn't follow through? And how do you prevent that from happening?
All the time. Probably the first 20 clients, we over delivered, undercharged. And it was really just an expectation thing. Like I was not confidently saying, and we have a whole new proposal. It's about 3-4 pages that we say, here's what you're getting. And on there is how many meetings we're going to have. Because it's great to look back and say, hey, we actually met more. We actually did more. But a client doesn't know. If we don't set expectations, they're going to take as much as they can get. And they don't know if it's more than they paid for or less. So our proposals now are really good at saying, hey, would you be happy if we accomplished this and we met this many times? And then during the year, we're tracking through Salesforce that when we do our renewal, we're able to say, hey, actually, we did extra meetings. And in the grand scheme of things, we've done it enough. And there's usually more opportunity there that we're not trying to nitpick on an hour here, an hour there.
Right.
I just want it to be generally a profitable relationship. I'm not giving that away for free anymore. And then most likely we're getting other lines of business too if we want it.
Matt, let me ask you as we wrap up here, and folks, if you have other questions, just drop them in the chat. Matt, why you're doing well? You've been a part of our Elite Advisor Network community, meeting, a couple times a month with us. Why are you coming to the event?
Oh, you can never know. You can never learn all of it. This is a skill you need to kind of keep exercising and learning more about. It just energizes me to move forward for the next year and to bring some new ideas to my clients. Again, we're a virtually only business. My firm, my two partners are up in Boston, and so just to have the camaraderie and to talk to folks about what they're doing differently, what's working for them, what's not working. It's necessary. I need the I just need that because again, we're pretty much virtual. So we don't have the in the office type of feel where we're having ideas back and forth. We do it online a lot, but it's just getting better at it. You can never be, you're never always, you don't know everything ever. So if you keep on coming back, you just learn more stuff. You can take care of clients. Yeah. So that's basically the reason why I'm coming.
He wants to see you in person, Andy, and give you a hug.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to say that, but
I was waiting for the right answer just to hang out with Andy because thanks for reminding him of that, Sten. In all seriousness, there is, and I'm grateful for Zoom. I think Zoom's awesome. It filled a great need, and it's fun that grandparents can talk to their kids, and it you can do business and so on and so forth. But there is power in being a person. There is power, and I'll also say it's more for the attendee. Like there's when you invest, you commit it to memory, and I think it just sticks more, right? Let me end with a few things, just a few reminders. First, that room that you see in that picture, that's the room we'll be in. It seats about 30. I think we sold 13, 14 seats so far. And the free hotel offer goes till December 1st, which I believe is like Tuesday or Thursday of the following week. And just use that coupon code at free hotel, no spaces. If you have any questions, I'd love to meet with you after the holiday. You can find a 20-minute time slot to meet with me and ask me any questions. Or had some great conversations with advisors today. The last thing I'll say is this: Sten and I and Elite Advisor Network as a company, we are not interested in adding. We're interested in multiplication. Addition's fine, but multiplication's fun, right? We want you to invest in this, invest in yourself, and we have 100% confidence that this will have a multiplication effect, a multiplier effect on your business. We have seen it with dozens and dozens and dozens of advisors we worked with, hand on hand, right? Hand in hand. And then also just with the people that we speak to through our podcasts, we know that these principles and these systems are working. And if you want to take the faster path, if you're healthily impatient like Sten is, and you say, I don't want to take 6 years, I want to do this in 2 years, then you need to be at this event. We have 100% confidence that we are the best place for you to come if you want to learn how to charge for your advice. Stan, I want to give you the last word.
Yeah, I hope you guys can make it. Again, there's the average path, it takes a while. Hopefully eventually you'll get there. And then there's the elite path, and that's doing uncomfortable things. And being in a room with 35 other advisors getting after it. We're going to be teaching whiteboarding strategies, prospecting strategies. How do you deliver a plan? We're going to have some experts come and teach some ideas that you can then go and use the next day. Yeah, this is a 10x plus type investment. And I know that because it was how I got into the business. I was sitting in a room being challenged by another advisor to think differently, and then being pushed to have the courage to change what I've been doing. And so if you come to this event, you will do things differently for sure.
Absolutely. And if you have multiple people in your office that would like to attend, and let's talk about that. Let's get you here. There's some advisors that want to have their a team of advisors coming because they want to work on this together. And it's right. It's good to have those same people in the room. So Stan, thank you for your time. Matt, just as a member of our community, thanks for taking time away from your family to step in. And we appreciate all of you. And if you have any questions, reach out. Otherwise, we will see you in January.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Andy. See you, everybody.
Right.
God bless everybody. Take care.